All right. We just finished our conversation with Lex, and I want to know how your thoughts were. I thought it was a good conversation. We talked a lot about his personal life, kind of a little bit of his origin story, but he did. It's interesting because he talks about a lot of things he actually hasn't maybe spoken about publicly. A couple of life experiences with some close friends of his, some situations that he had when he was grinding for Supernova Elite, where he got into, I don't want to say money trouble because I don't think it, put him close to zero or anything like that, but some swings for sure. Yeah, why don't you give me your thoughts on the conversation?
Yeah, I mean, the conversation was amazing as far as I'm concerned. But the thing that comes through when you talk to Lex is how much he trusts people, right? So
Yeah.
he obviously trusted us a lot with the conversation that we had because he shared a lot of things that were very, personal for him. Um, and as well as just like the how much he trusts people comes through with the types of stories that he shares, and like how much he helped different people out, and how he would step into the fire and do it again. So I love the conversation. I really like the guy, and yeah, I had a good time. So hopefully the listener does as well. But I thought it was a very like deep conversation about how he gets like what basically like what drives Lex, like what pushes Lex, how Lex handles people around him getting into trouble, those types of things, like very personal questions. Um, and so yeah, I found the conversation really valuable myself.
Yeah, I spoke a lot about his character because that's actually one of the things that I knew because I've known Lex for God, like 7 or 8 years now. And one of the things I always admired about him was that specifically loyalty. And you would know just based off of, he's spoken this before, he just gets all these offers to promote products on his stream. And he was always super selective about who he chose to represent. He basically said, like, he's had energy drinks come and he's like, I don't drink your energy drinks. So I don't want to promote your energy drink no matter how much you want to pay me. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, I'm not going to
For
put my,
sure.
my brand behind, some stupid energy drink that you advertise as healthy for people when I know it's not. So, yeah, no, just a great conversation. And yeah, let's get into our conversation with Lex.
Let's go.
Welcome to episode 2 of Just a Game with our good friend Lex Veldhuis. Welcome, sir.
Yo, what's up, guys? I'm excited to be here. Very honored as well. I think first guest, so big time.
Yeah, I'm super happy to have you, bro. You're definitely the first person that came to mind when we started the idea about doing this. So thank you very much for
Cool.
showing up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I can't wait. It's also nice because normally, obviously, we're in a coaching setting. Like we talk about other stuff as well. We
Sure.
talk about personal stuff, but it's fun to do something content related aside from coaching, also.
Yeah, I mean, I've only had dinner with you, I think, once, right?
Yeah.
So we haven't had the time to just like catch up a lot and just like talk.
Yeah, it's like it's sometimes the coaching hours go like that, right? Like we'll start and then we're just like we have some stuff going on and we'd like to hear each other's opinion or something, and it's just like could even be about random non-related poker related stuff, and then we just like end up chatting for like 30 minutes. But
Yeah,
that's
business
great.
problems, solving life problems a little bit.
Yeah, yeah,
So for me personally, I don't know if where Jake wanted to get started, but for me personally, I haven't. I'm working a lot. You're working a lot. I haven't been able to watch as many of your streams, so I don't know as much about your origin story as everybody else does. So I know that you started, I believe, with $10 from Elke, if that's right.
yeah.
But that might be wrong. But I started with $7 from somebody else, so we have similar, dollar amounts that we got started with. And so I'd love to hear how you spun it up, or if you got the $10 that you lost it, then you made another deposit, and like how did things go in the beginning?
So I was pretty much just playing StarCraft video games, and then I moved out on my own when I was 18, almost
Hmm.
19. And I wanted to study at university criminology. Really bad choice. Don't have any interest in law. Never really wanted to do school really. And then one of my friends, Victor Goossens, he's the founder of Team Liquid.
Hmm.
And I knew him through StarCraft, and that's around the time where he started Team Liquid as like a simple forum. And he told me, I found a video game you can make money with. And then he asked me, "Have you ever played poker?" So then he said he had all these stories about Elkie, and then he started playing, and then he told me like, just play money for a while. Once you
Okay.
have an idea of what to do, then I'll send you $10." And then Elkie, um, him and Elkie both sent me like a bullet of $10, and then I just started playing. And this was like when you had to go from 1 2 cent cash game tables, you had to jump all the way up to 10 25 cents. So you had to increase your stakes by 10x,
Yep.
uh, which was a pretty insane grind, like to try and make the jump. But then I landed on 10 25 cents, and I just started grinding a lot. Stopped school a little bit after that. A pretty bad decision back then, but like I don't know, I just wanted to try it. And I don't know, I started grinding like 1 2 and stuff, and that's when things really started to click. I started playing more aggressive, and I think that within like a year or so, I was just like open sitting 3 6 and playing like the max tables or something like that.
Okay, so you did spin it up from $10, like, you didn't have to,
Yeah,
redeposit or anything, you just kind of, like, went like
yeah,
that? Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, so yeah, we have similar stories. I did the same thing in sit and goes, like, started from playing, like, the 1 cent 360 mans, I think it was, either the 1 cent or 3 cent 360 mans, and just kept going, and then eventually played $1 games, $3, $6, 15s, 60s, and then, like, yeah. So, yeah, so very similar arcs there. So you mentioned that you were at university and that you stopped. Was there like family friction about that sort of a decision? Was that like a pretty easy decision for you to make?
I knew I was gonna quit in the first year. I was like
Okay.
20 at the time. I knew I was gonna quit in the first year. I had a big exam, and but I was also deep in the 33 rebuy,
Okay.
and I stayed home to finish the 33 rebuy. I got second,
Okay.
won $1,500, and I was just like, "This is it," you know. And I have to
Priorities.
say, yeah, yeah. Back then, people like the smartest people in the room had the bankroll management to do 10 buy-ins on a stake in cash games. So
Okay.
I was like, I have $1,500. I can now almost play 1 2, right? So I was like, and at 1 2, I can make good enough money to go pro. So okay, so the first year I was sort of like, I was definitely sure that I wanted to do it. Um, Went for it, didn't go to school anymore, but I wanted to sort of like solidify things before telling my parents.
Mhm.
So then after a year, into the second year, I said to my dad, I said, "Hey, I want to tell you something. I'm gonna quit university." And he was like, "Hell no, this is not
Mhm.
happening. Not for something like that. We're just not gonna do this." And I had actually already saved up all the tuition that he had paid me, that he had paid for me.
Yep.
So I just gave him an envelope, and I was like, "This is all the tuition that you have paid in my school. I've made it back with this game. So I'm 20 years old. I'm my own man. You can either support me, and I can include you in this sort of journey and process, but you don't have a hold over me financially or whatever." So and I think that that sort of made him immediately think like, okay, that's sort of grown up and
Sure.
mature thing to do.
Yeah.
So that changed his perspective a little bit. It took a little bit for him to come around, but then I qualified for EPT London. And he was like, "What? So you're going to London to play this tournament?" And I showed him pictures, and there were so many people there, and it looked very normal. None of the stigmatized, like smoky backroom stuff.
Yeah, sure.
Um, yeah, so yeah, there was a little bit of friction, but that went away quickly. And my mom was really supportive from the beginning. Um, she didn't really like me quitting school. She wanted me to try both, but it's just not really in my character. So,
Yeah.
um, but they came around quickly to it, I have to say.
Yeah, it sounds like it. That's a super alpha move, though. I mean, like that's
Yeah,
super cool. Like I got the money in an envelope. Hey, pops, I don't need the financial support. Like, thank you very much for all the help. I already reimbursed you for your investment, and we're going this way. So
yeah,
that's super
yeah.
cool, man.
Yeah, and I was like, and oh, it's also nice. Like, I had a conversation with him after, and he was like, again talking about school and stuff. And this is, I mean, it's so perfect. It sounds made up. So,
It sounds super cool, bro. It
uh,
sounds cool.
okay, yeah, yeah. So I'm talking to him, and we're walking outside, and we're walking outside, and we're walking alongside where my grandma lived, and we just went over there for dinner. And we're just walking outside, and I'm telling him, he's like, "Shouldn't you try both?" And blah blah blah. And this is when I already had gone to Vegas the first time, but this is like 2007 or six or something. And I just gone to Vegas, and now I was sure, right? Like now it was like, holy shit! Like Vegas was amazing. Played pretty high stakes cash there already, and I was talking to him, and he was like trying to tell me to reconsider. walking around, and I just lost a bunch of money, and he knew about that, and I was trying to tell him about the investment ups and downs, like swings, luck factor, and he just wasn't really having it. And we're walking around, and we stop at this point, and he points at a car, and he's like, "Wouldn't you ever want to buy a car like this one day?" And I was like, "Yes, I would." And then I just opened the car, got in,
Oh
and
my
drove
god.
off.
Oh
And he
my
was just
god.
and he was literally he was, like, scratching his head. He was, like, looking at it like this, and he was scratching his head. And that was, like, the after that, he was completely on board. He's like, "If you can buy stuff like that, you can pay your rent." And I was telling him about, like, saving plans, and I was very, very serious about everything back then, right? Like, I had a whole period where I just didn't give a fuck about money, responsibilities, that sort of thing. But during that time, I was really, like, nitpicking, grinding, making plans, like, really looking at financial security and stuff. So, yeah, those two conversations were key. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can't believe that the story got even more alpha than it started. But that's like yeah, I would like to own a car like this someday. Click,
Yeah,
click, and then
yeah,
you get in and you whip off. That's
yeah.
dope. So for people that are watching this, like it sounds like you used an opportunity cost type framework to make the decision, right? Because a lot of people who are watching might be already pros or on the verge of being a pro or thinking about potentially going pro at some point in their careers, or they might be doing something completely different. And it sounds like, comparing the opportunity set that was in front of you at university to in criminology to like how much money you were actually making playing poker was a big part of the framework. It doesn't sound like you, and I could be wrong, but it doesn't sound like you were deciding not to go to university to go to go play a game for fun, and with no prospects of like making more money doing this than the other thing. Or am I wrong about the timeline? Like, were you ready to quit university before you had any like kind of promise or prospects of financial success, or were you already making like somewhat comparable money to someone in criminology when you decided not to pursue that path?
I didn't really look at it that way, but I think the basis of the hypothesis is the same, because I just looked at poker as something that I could be successful in.
Hmm.
I felt that I could be successful, right? Like, I was doing really well for the short amount of time that I was playing. I was getting good feedback from the people like Victor, my friend, that was teaching me, right? I was
Hmm.
getting really good feedback, like how quickly I was picking things up. I had really good mentors there. And I just, for the first time in my life, I felt like going for something. Right.
Okay.
I always in school, like I failed to go to the next class once in high school. Then I flunked my exam on like one point, and then I had to redo the courses. I had to redo math and economics. I had to succeed in one or the other.
Hmm.
And I got like a 15% on my economics score, but then an 80% on my math. So then I got my diploma, right, for high school,
Yep.
which is when we're 18, or in my case 20.
Sure.
Um, so and I never wanted to do it. People always had to tell me. There always had to be threats. There always had to be sort of like, you're getting kicked off school sort of thing for me to start working. And now all of a sudden I'm just like eating away at this knowledge, like picking people's brains, like figuring stuff out.
Sure.
And there was a financial reward. So you're definitely right in a sense where it's like, I can be successful in this and this could be my thing, as in money, right? It wasn't sort of like the esports career where you really love playing a video game and there's nothing you would rather do than that game, and then all of a sudden there might be a pro career in that. There
Sure.
was definitely like a holy shit, I really like this, and there's a path to financial freedom here as well. So, um, but yeah, like also touching on what you said about people like looking at it, I also tell people like this is 20 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Different
Sure.
poker landscape, different knowledge. I would definitely recommend anybody that's doing it now to really look at their financial picture, and alongside their job or whatever they do, I feel like people need to show 6 months in a row where they can make like a good, reasonable, structured salary.
Mhm.
You can't just go pro on a whim these days. It's just too
Sure.
hard for that. And I think it's too
Yeah.
stressful as well, right? Because like, I mean, you know more than anybody. Like, you're studying the game, you know how much other people are working on their game and stuff. It's just not like, oh, I have a knack for this game, I'm just gonna crush it. It's just like
Yeah.
something you
Sure.
have to dedicate your life to. And then imagine doing that while you also need to be like, okay, I need to literally make food money today. Like, you can't
Yeah.
play poker like that, right? So,
No.
um,
Yeah, I mean, I've personally spent a lot of time with people that didn't make it, right? I think more than most. There's like, especially when you're like winning, you end up in like a winner's bias type of world where like, winners kind of congregate. You end up hanging out a lot with people who are successful. You're like the epitome of poker success, basically. So a lot of other people that are successful get pushed into your circle, right? Like poker stars will push successful streamers and poker players into your circle. Like you get coaches that are really high level players. So in in a sense, like your poker view is like you have a lot of the top guys around you a lot of the time. I have the opposite, where like through staking, I get exposed to a lot of the people that where it just really doesn't work, where they're like, "Yo, I've been doing this for 8 years. I have no money. It hasn't worked at all. I lost everything. Like, can you help me?" And it's like maybe, but maybe not.
Mhm.
And so yeah, we just like I don't know. It's just there's the risk of it going the wrong way. I get a lot of reminders of that like almost daily, and I would agree with you and second everything you're saying. That like you want to make sure. Like for me, there was I used more like very similar to you. I used, in my opinion, like for me, it was an opportunity cost framework. I was a door to door salesman. I wasn't making much money. It was winter. It was cold. It was wet. I didn't want to do that job that I was doing, and like I got to stay inside to play poker, and I was making the same money. So like very quickly, I was like, I mean, I started with $7. Now I have 2 or 3 grand. I'm pretty sure that if I got to 7 to 3 grand, I can get to 10 way faster than it took me to get to three. Um, and so I was done, And so I was just like, I'm making more money doing this. I don't have to go out in the cold. Like I'm hooked. This is all
Yeah.
I want to do. And like it was easy to put 100% into it, just like you,
Mhm.
where I just let it absorb me. But yeah, I would say that you want to make sure that you're, crossing your T's, dotting your I's if you're just getting started with this. Um, and then, yeah, so I know that you've done a lot of different formats in No Limit, right? So we've kind of talked about how you got started in the game, but sorry, I said No Limit in poker, right? You've played PLO, you've played tournaments, you've played cash games. You've already mentioned that. Do you have like a favorite format? How do you think about jumping from one format to the other? Do you like playing multiple formats at the same time and keeping the discipline of studying both games? Like, how do you approach all the different games you've played? And do you have any thoughts about that?
I think first of all, I always sort of like I think that interest and passion is really important, right? So if you like somebody sometimes people will ask in my chat like, I love playing cash games, but there's more money in tournaments. Then just fucking play cash games. Like I think that
Sure.
the passion and the love for something is very important, right? So I was intrigued by every form of poker. I mean, I started out with cash games, grinded that up, started playing tournaments alongside. But even back then, like if sometimes when I would just wanted to book a win, let's say I played a long session and I was stuck 8 buy-ins and I end up being up 4 buy-ins, and I was just like, okay, my brain is fried for whatever stakes I'm playing, but I still feel like playing cards. And then I would just open up like a low stakes stud table and just sort of like look at the game, see what it was like.
Okay.
So I
Cool.
always, yeah, so I've always been branching out. Um, but I kind of just followed the action and sort of what made sense for me, right? So everything was all about online for me, and then the EPT started becoming big, and I started qualifying for the live events. So then I would just do sort of like shift back and forth between tournaments, live, and then just go online. But I would also play a lot of cash games live then. So then I was sort of dipping my toes in all of them at the same time. Um, and I sort of enjoyed that for a while. But then I just sort of I just got over it. I got over it really badly. So and I didn't really want to play tournaments because I think what I know now is that I just had a lack of knowledge, right? I just wasn't good at them. I didn't know tournament strategy. And if you don't know the strategy, if you don't know the intricacies and what's cool about it and what's like a gangster move and stuff, then it's really hard to see the beauty of it, right?
Sure.
Like, I genuinely thought, like, every single player in the world can play 20 big blinds as good as the other because it's just fucking push folds. Like, that's
Mhm.
what my opinion was of tournaments, and now you see people like fucking NASA sicking it out with 7 big blinds, like, way better than other people, It's just like, okay. So then I just thought, like, I just need to do something completely different. Oh, man, the stupid shit, though, like, I just started playing WSOP, and I just wanted to find a new love, right? So I started playing the 10K horse, the 10K deuce to seven, the 10K Omaha 8 or better, 10K stud 8 or better. I would just play all the 10K events and see which one I liked. I thought I loved it, but it was mainly, I think, because the atmosphere at the table was just really cool, right? I mean, you're playing with Ivy, Doyle, Lesra, Negranu every table. It's eight-handed. Everybody's having fun. It's like the best environment.
Okay.
Um, but then I sort of like landed on PLO, and I just knew that I really wanted to learn PLO because there was a lot of action online around PLO. No Limit Hold'em felt incredibly stale. Like, this is an era I believe, like, I definitely wasn't one of the people researching what GTO meant, but, you had Sauce,
Hmm.
and everybody played some sort of, like, bad version of Sauce's game and tried to do what he did, and I think that what people thought that GTO meant was being impregnable and not making mistakes. So, after I played a lot live, I was like, time to go back to my bread and butter. I'm gonna grind online. I'm gonna try. I don't know. I think Supernova Elite was around. Like, maybe I should try go for that because I always used to get like insane numbers on hands and grinds and stuff. So, and I was playing online, and I would play 5-10 versus two good regulars, and they played a pot, and I was like, okay, so it was top pair versus over pair, and the pot was 15 big blinds. And then
Okay.
you saw people check, check, bet call. Okay, king jack versus ace jack on a jack high board. I was like, "What the fuck has happened to this game? Like, this is so fucking boring, right?" And I just thought the game was dead. I was like, "This is just not for me. I can't do this." So, but then if you played higher or people played aggressive, now I had played live for so long, people got way better than I did. So those guys have been plugging away at it, like professionalizing whatever they did,
Hmm.
and I'm just like fucking firing like high stakes live games and tournaments. So I just come online and just chew me up. So I was like, okay, so I'm not good enough to play high stakes. The mid stakes to reasonable high stakes, like 5-10 or whatever, is super fucking boring. I'm gonna play PLO. So then I just kind of followed the action, played PLO for a while, grinded Supernova Elite, most miserable years of my life because now all of a sudden, all right, I am playing a game for hours instead of doing something I'm passionate about. It's the first time where I made sort of like a choice for continuity, stability, and it's a pretty bad period in my life anyway. Like, lots of shit went wrong, like financially, with people owing me and vouching for
Yeah.
people that didn't pay back, and whew, it was so I needed PLO in that sense to sort of, and the Supernova Elite kind to keep me sane. But yeah, I've always tried to sort of focus on one thing, do it, and at first I thought like no limit hold'em, let's just do tournaments alongside cash games. But I think that's where I started deteriorating a skill because it's just too hard to do all of that.
Yeah.
Like we talked about that. You told me as well. There's like 10 people in the world that can do that, right? Like really well.
Yep.
Um, So and then, I've always kind of hated tournaments, and then I started streaming, and then that's when I started playing tournaments, and I have to say, like, this is one of the moments in my life where I can say that I love the game the most, and that I'm infatuated with tournament poker. It's so beautiful. If you also see like if people are good, like
Hmm.
how they play, it's like you're playing a fucking monster. It's just like, man, it's just tournament poker to be able to perform under such high pressure with top heavy prizes and the grind it is, and you're gonna lose most days. It's like it's a very Spartan way of living through poker, and I think it's fucking beautiful. So if you ask me like what are my favorite things in poker and the periods and the game formats, I would say like no limit home tournaments right now, and then cash games grinding up the stakes when it's the wild fucking west, right? Like when you play 3-6 for the first time, 5-10 for the first time, the way that felt, that feeling, like those. And right now, like those are my two favorite ones.
I think that because you've been streaming for so long, you have a really poetic way of talking, and I think that a lot of like how successful you've been can be sort of overlooked by people that might be listening to this. So the thing that stands out like right away is how self-aware you were. It sounds like you moved yourself down, like you were very aware of like I'm not crushing these games, like I'm not going to just stick it out until I get obliterated either. It sounds like you dabbled with high stakes NL, and then you were like, well, I can't beat this at high stakes and it's boring anyways if I play mid stakes or lower. So I'm going to move to a different game. I'm going to jump. And then I think that that's where people go broke a lot. So did you, and you never, it sounds like you never had a reset. I asked you that in the beginning. You said you spun it up and you never really looked back. So did you ever have any close run-ins with like your bankroll almost getting demolished, or was it always like pretty safe? Or
Oh God. I think there was a period of time for like 4 years. I just couldn't care less. I just looked at a certain point. I just stopped caring about money and making money. I had
Mhm,
no long-term vision. I just love the game so much, and I love the competition.
mhm,
I yeah, I'm a it's sort of like in terms of bankroll management, I'm probably one of the
sure.
worst examples during a big tenure of my career. Um yeah, like yeah. Okay, I'll tell you two stories. I have one week, and I say this with a smile, not because I'm proud of it. but because I'm thinking back to how that was, and the week was just amazing, you know. So um, I I think I went broke in poker 20, 30 times, something like that.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I'm sort of like the anti-hero when it comes to that sort of stuff, but I
So
feel
did
like
you?
it's still a good thing to learn from for people because I noticed that it's not a never-ending well of you can bounce back, right?
Sure.
There was a point where I was just like, okay, right now I feel so fucked and I have so little options. I just put myself in this position and I just felt like I fucked it all.
Hmm.
Um, and that's why I'm working so hard right now, and why I really love the game and appreciate it for what it is. And why people ask me like, well, "How can you play an $11 tournament next to a $500 tournament?" Is because I really love the fact that I can do that. I'm proud of that now. I can grind that shit. I don't go all in every hand because it's my last tournament of the day because I've changed in that way, right? So, um, but yeah, I mean, it took a long road to get there, and I think I was just honestly just surviving purely because poker wasn't that professional and I had a lot of talent. To just, I was ruthless in a sense, ruthless to myself in terms of grinding. I could
Hmm.
easily just grind 110 hours a week. Ruthless to my health, ruthless in the game. Could just did not care at all about swings.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I had a week where I was just like, I lost. I grinded, and then I took a shot at a game. Didn't pull out of the games quick enough.
Okay.
Lost quite a bit. Those 2 stories are actually connected. So, like, to give you an idea, like, I was playing, like, 10 tables, 25-50, 3 tables, 100, 200. Ended up losing, like, 140K in a day. That was a big part of my bankroll.
Hmm.
Did not really care. My friends were, like, sweating it really hard. Um, and sometimes I feel like I was just looking for the pain because I feel like there was a lot of personal growth coming from being in those moments.
Hmm.
And I was looking for the pain a little bit. And this is gonna maybe really this is gonna it is stupid, so it doesn't matter. So I had about 10,000 euros left live cash, and
Okay.
my bankroll online was obliterated after that session. So I went to the casino. I said, I'm gonna go to the casino, and then my friend said, no, no, don't do that. I was like, no, it's fine, trust me. I need a hard reset. So I just went to the casino. I bought a bunch of 500 euro and 100 euro chips. I literally rolled it out over the roulette table. They stacked up everything.
Hmm.
Whatever. It hits a number that I didn't have. I was like, "Okay." And I don't say this, like, this was not a way to get even. I just feel like I was just I don't know what I was looking for or what sort of like mental shit I was dealing with. But I was like, "Okay, it didn't go online. That's a mental reset. Now I'm gonna show you how I can build it back up." And that would be and I would go to bed, not lose an hour of sleep, wake up, and I messaged the cleaner and I was like, "Hey, Jorrit, can you send me 5K on stars?" He was like, "Yep." And he sent me 5K, and I would just grind 50 cents $1, and I'd be the happiest person alive. And I just play 24 tables, I just grind it back up to 100K and just try to make it. Play Ivy heads up, 300, 600. Like, this would be a continuous story for me. This happened over and over and over again. Um,
So
but yeah,
so that's good. Good.
no, no. So yeah,
So I was just gonna ask, so were those? So you had friends that would like lend you like a small amount of money just with
yeah,
the character that you had, like they trust that you would pay it back, no stake or anything, right? Just like an unofficial, like here's
yeah,
5K, and then you just like, yeah, I'll just get it back to you shortly after. You spin it right back up, and then you're back in the mix, and you do
yeah.
this a bunch of times.
Yeah, I think and so that's why I said I was 2 stories and they are connected. The next day I messaged him 500, 5K. He sends me 5K, and I swear to God, I ran that 5K. I started playing heads up, and I ran it up to 10. At first I did the 50 cents $1 thing.
Hmm.
I was like, okay, win a lot of buy-ins because it was just easy. It's so easy, right? Like back then, it was just
Sure.
crazy. Like when you normally play 100, 200, then you play 50 cents $1. There's like no variance, nothing, right? You just
Yeah. Sure.
smash.
Yep.
So you just win a bunch of money, and I was like, okay. So I had like the secure grind, would win like 50 buy-ins in a session, send back the 5K, and I was like, okay, cool. Now it starts. And then I would just start playing heads up versus people, and I would just aggressively have like five buy-ins to play heads up with. So I
Hmm.
would start at like 3-6, I would go to 5-10, and I ran that 5K to 100K in a single day playing heads up, um, to a point where I lost it all again, went to bed, messaged him the next day, said, "Hey, can you send me 5K again?" He would send 5,000. I ran it back up to 100,000 in a single day again. Lost it all playing
Wow.
300, 600, and I did that 5 consecutive. I say days, but they were like 30-hour sessions, 40-hour sessions.
Holy smokes.
Um, so but at a certain point, I was just like, okay, this is not going to work anymore. I was getting like destroyed. You could also tell, like, there were some other problems creeping in where it's just like not healthy to go through that. And like once I got annoyed with it, I was like, okay, so then I need to stop doing it. First, I was doing it to sort of like, fun speed run. It was like speed running pretty much. I was speed running poker as a video
Hmm.
game. But then I got a lot more serious about it. I started grinding. I started talking a lot more strategy with people. I started just 24 tabling 3-6, 5-10. Back then there was 100% rake back for Stars Pros that like I was making an insane amount of rake back
Yeah.
for that. Um, and then I was doing really well. Yeah, then I was doing really well for a while, and then I was building a very like I was building very consistently, smashing pretty much everything except for tournaments. Um, Smashing everything. So I definitely learned from that. But if you'd ask me like, yeah, was your road consistent and straight as an arrow? No, I really had to learn the hard way. Um, by just yeah, I don't know, man. I just wasn't playing poker to make money. So that's why I don't really feel bad about it. Was it degen? Yes. Lots of bad choices, very irresponsible, very unprofessional. But it kind of I don't really look at it that way when I look back, right? Like what is your purpose of playing? If your purpose of playing is like making a living and being financially independent, it was the dumbest thing I could do. But I just felt invigorated by the competition aspect of poker. I thought
Sure.
I pay 600 euros rent a month. So who the fuck cares?
Sure.
It's like a different angle into playing a game or a competition. But then I realized, like after a few years, like the world just doesn't work like that, right? Like
Yeah.
what
I
I
mean,
don't have
there's certain,
tension.
yeah, we certain obligations that we have to fulfill, like for
Yeah,
ourselves. Yeah. As well as like if you want to have a family or whatever, like you have to make it work.
yeah. You
It
can just
doesn't
like fuck
sound
around.
super D-Genny though. It seemed like you mainly did it just for the competitiveness because you were down to play against the best guys, as opposed to, I deal with a lot of players in academy, and they've come through, and a lot of them mention, we have a certain strategy of schedule that we put them on, and sometimes they don't use that strategy and they chase that big score. They
Mm,
want to play a high variance schedule. So it sounds like you weren't trying to chase the money side of things. It was just, I want to repetitively play. It's like similar to a video game, right? You want to climb the ranks and play against the best guys.
yeah.
So I could see from your point, it's not, you could see it as D-Genny, but not super D-Genny.
Yeah, 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 for sure. It was yeah, I just approached it as a video game. That's the way I got introduced to poker, right? Like a
Yeah,
Yeah.
video
Sure.
game online and the tokens that you use or the currency
same
in that
here. Yeah.
video game was money.
Yeah.
Um so yeah, I don't know.
It sounds like the
But then
intensity of like what you were doing was always really high though.
yeah.
Did that follow you from, because it doesn't sound like it followed you from school. It doesn't sound like you were like super intensely studying and like working your ass off 24/7 with school. That doesn't sound like the way that you, at least the way you described it to me, didn't sound like that. But is that the way that you approach StarCraft? Was StarCraft
Yeah.
like that? Like just super obsessive and like,
Yeah, that's
everything?
a really good observation because like um people ask me a lot. Like a lot of people think that it's all about that it was like, if I did long sessions when I mentioned like, oh, it's something that comes back or some that people ask on my stream, like longest session, whatever. And I say like I've done at least 60 sessions that were over 50 hours. Like at
Yeah,
That's
least.
that's insane.
insane. That's so
Yeah.
But
I've
insane.
then
never done one
Holy
personally.
shit.
oh yeah.
I've never done
Oh you
one.
should
Dude, my
yeah, I
longest
was
one
gonna
was
say you
like
should try it
12 or
sometime, but I
14,
don't know.
maybe. Fucking hell. 50 hours.
Yeah. So I had a whole
Cigarettes
system.
and energy drinks kept you going through that?
Yeah, like a lot of people assume that there's like drug abuse, like stuff like that, right? And but people don't understand. Like my parents were away for my dad's work one weekend, and I
Mhm.
played a 44-hour StarCraft session. I was 13. Like
Yeah, that's just insane.
so it's just like I've always had this sort of like singular grind mentality that I can apply to something that I truly care about, right?
Mhm.
And the world can burn, but if I don't care about something, if it's about me, right? Like I would never
Yeah,
have this
sure.
mentality when it's my kids or people
Mhm.
depending on me. But when it's just me, the world can fucking burn. And if I don't feel like doing it, I just won't do it, at cost of like you know health, future, whatever. So, but this I just loved, so I just had this intensity. But then I realized also like yeah, you can't do it this way. Um, I started, yeah, I started getting more healthy.
Hmm.
I met Fatima Morer de Melo and her
Hmm.
boyfriend Raymond Sluiter, who came from Dutch tennis, and they came from pro sports, right?
Definitely
Yeah.
not going to say it as good as you. Royman Sleuter?
Yeah, Raymond Sluiter, yeah.
Sleuter? Yeah. Um, he helped you with sports mentality. Would you say is
Um,
that, or maybe they kind of gave you a different perspective on how to approach poker in a different way in relation to
yeah,
sports?
I think they just like showed me that you can approach your craft in a different way, you
Right.
know? Where they were like, um, they're just saying like, okay, you have a talent at something, but it's unsustainable if you do it this way. And they've seen pro players like slide off, start doing, start deteriorating their health, abusing alcohol, stuff like that. And they just saw they were just worried, and we really connected. And it was funny because like they were so pristine health and all about physical, mental well being, and I was living like a complete degenerate in their eyes, and
Hmm.
probably was. But we connected on a like very very well. So I started playing tennis with him like 3 times a week. I started playing just fun home games with friends with them, and they just started chatting to me. And for some reason, they just knew how to penetrate whatever bullshit I was telling myself, right? Um, and just really get me to think about it in a different way. Um, and then what happened was like I started grinding. I even like sent Fatima money so that she could keep it for me, like sort of like a safety deposit thing, or like just saving money for the first time ever, right? And we're traveling to EPTs, and she was always there too. Then she got signed on by Stars, so I met her before that. Then she got signed on by Stars, and I just remember everything going really well, and then sort of like everything went to shit. And
Okay.
that felt a bit unfair because okay, so there was a few things that happened, sort of like timeline is a little fuzzy, but there was a few things that happened. A friend of mine was in deep shit, like he got swindled by a business partner, and he owed a lot of money. Um, and he just asked he asked me if I could help him s- with a lot less, and I paid off the debt for him.
Hmm.
Um, so, but it always feels little bit, what do you say? It's self-grandizing or self-grandiosing or whatever you say.
Sure.
Self-grand.
Mhm.
But it's important to the story, I guess. So that was like $1 million. Um,
Oh shit, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, I think this was around the time that you were playing PLO because I've heard this story before. I feel like this was in relation to when you were grinding PLO and
that happened. I gave my friend $1 million. He was able to sort out his stuff. But this was kind of like this wasn't a loan, right? This was like your business might survive, and if you ever do well, then we'll figure it out, right?
Sure.
So that money was sort of gone. Then there was another situation where I vouched somebody else that has helped me a lot, that had always been there for me, was doing a trade, and this is a person where we played a live game in Vegas, and uh, they lost like a few 100,000. And they gave it to me no problem, right? And then they helped me out with something else, and there was a swap, and then we played in Monte Carlo, and there was a cash game, and there was somewhere else, and like lots of contact with this person, lots of money transactions. And then he was like, there was a trade, and somebody was like, "Hey, can you vouch?" Right? Like just like you do sometimes now with Bitcoin trades or whatever, right? Like
Sure.
somebody vouches.
yeah, hard
So
vouch.
yeah, I vouched in two trades, one for 400, one for 300K, and then that person ended up not being able to pay. So I was like, okay. Um, interesting. So I mean, I vouched, so I have to like own up to it. So I just have to own up to it, and yeah, I paid the 700K. I mean, we figure out a sort of like a plan to do it because I had just also had the other thing.
Mhm.
Then I got retroactive tax law. Had to pay retroactive tax payments.
Mhm.
Shitload of money there. Um, so stuff was everywhere, sort of like just going wrong. And then I also thought that some of that money for the vouch would still come back. I thought maybe my friend that I gave some money will come back. Maybe the taxes is not going to be so bad. You sort of have a god complex because like I clearly made a lot of money up until that point, right? Like in that
Yep.
grind, I made a lot of money. And then I went on a downswing probably because I was stressed,
Mhm.
not in the best headspace. And that's that's also around the time where I started grinding Supernova Elite, right? I wanted stability. I needed stability. And that is like a very unhappy period in my life. And that's when I also started thinking about all the opportunities that I fucked up, right?
Mhm.
Why did I play Phil Ivy heads up 300, 600 when I could have been grinding 10, 20 and printing 60K a month, right?
Yep.
It's just like you start thinking about all that stuff. And now I'm like, I paid all this money. I have to pay taxes. Like, am I just fucked now? Did I just miss my window? Right? Because at the same time, I like people. I think that a good example of this is somebody like Durr or Dan Bilzerian, right? They get
Sure.
to a point, they play insane games, they have zero need to work on their craft to try and beat the best players in the world. They just need to do as well as they can versus the people they are playing against, right?
Yep.
And in Durr's case, that could literally be go out and party with them 4 nights a week, right?
Mhm.
Or um, have with another friend that plays in the game player specific game plans, right? Against this player, this works. And this could be the worst game plan in the entire world when you play versus people that play on GTO basis. So
Sure.
when people say like, "Oh my god, I haven't seen Durr forever," or Ivy, for instance, right? But they just seem so out of date now with their game. It's like, yeah, but it doesn't matter because they didn't need to go down that pathway, right?
Sure.
And I kind of feel like I was in a similar spot where I was playing private games in Vegas. I was playing private games everywhere. And I mean, it was just like 100, 200, 400 games with people that just blast, right? And they were tough, but they blast. So I'm in all these spots and and I've grinded online and I did that throughout the week to just like, be in touch with poker, do stuff, grind a lot. And I did everything very smartly. And then now all of a sudden I don't have those opportunities because I'm cash broke.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden I'm also shit at the game. So I did not I did not um, develop as a player. I did not develop. I developed as a professional, which is great. So, like, I didn't get ahead financially. I didn't get ahead on a skill basis. Most of my big connections are burnt. You also have people that are like, "Wow, Lex vouch for this. Like, he has to pay 300,000." Like, yeah, okay, like, yeah, I
Right.
get it. So there was like people weren't exactly sure what was going on with me either.
Mhm.
So you have people that are putting question marks there, which also hampers your ability to play in other games, even when you're backed, for instance, or whatever. So everything was sort of going to shit, and then I was just really, and that's sort of why now I feel so invigorated about the game to do everything the right way, right? I want to play well, I want to study, I want to be as good as I can be while streaming, and especially if you look at streaming, I've really applied that, right? No fucking days off. Like this is how I do it. I stream every fucking hand of every tournament that I'm playing. Like I need
Mhm.
to make the most out of this, like, right? I just really felt like I need to grab this, and this is my second chance, right? So and streaming for me is it's my second life pretty much because and I mean weirdly enough, obviously there's a lot of uh, pain there for a lot of players, but when Supernova Elite was canceled, at first I thought, what the fuck am I gonna do now? And then it was liberating because it forced me to think about stuff.
Mhm.
And there were two things happening. I talked to Stars and I said like, yo, I don't know what I want to do. They always wanted me to stream. I said, I think I want to stream because I love fucking Twitch and I love poker. So I need to, that seems like something I could do. But back then there was the tone on Twitch poker I didn't really like. Everything was very happy and safe, which is good. Like everybody has a style, whatever. So I don't mean to throw shade, but it just wasn't the way I saw streaming, right? Like a little bit more rugged or something. So I was thinking about that. So I asked Stars. I was like, "Hey, yo, they said take whatever time you need. We'll help you with the technical stuff. We'll do whatever you need if that's the route you decide to go." So that was nice. So I had like less pressure from that side. And I talked to Mirta, and Mirta was just like, "All right, okay." So there was like the issue with the tax government
Mhm.
agency because they said this is what you need to pay, and I was like, "That's an insanely stupid law." Like
Sure.
how So
The way
we're
they're making the numbers, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So we're
Mhm.
able to sort of like well, anyway, so that was sort of in limbo,
Mhm.
and I had been living abroad because I was traveling 9 months a year anyway. I've been living abroad for a while, and then Mirta was like, "If you want to have a future with me, and if you want to like start a family, I don't care where we are, what we have, but get your fucking shit together and show me that you believe in that future and that we can build something."
Mhm.
And that's the thing that just made me I just like I had a tax attorney and whatever. I called up the guy and and that's the major first step. I was like, "Can I drop by the office?" And he was like, "Yeah." So I go there without an attorney and I have like a really normal conversation where I show him buy-ins, losses, variance. I had to pay on a monthly basis without deducting losing months, which is what the tax system was.
Yep.
So it's unwinnable, right? So
Yeah, no, yeah, I've heard about it.
yeah, and he was like, and then we had a normal conversation. We came to sort of like a payment plan, whatever. And then it was like everything started to click into place. I started streaming, it was successful. Then there was a lot of like tax paybacks for people pay taxes in the back. And then all of a sudden, money that I vouched for people, money started coming in from there. And then all of a sudden, everything just started running. And then I was like, and as soon as I felt that momentum, I was just like, holy fucking shit. Like I need to hold on to this, do whatever I can to protect it, and then just like grind the shit out of this. And I always look at that like that sort of timeline that was like 2014 or something.
Mhm.
Oh man, because
Yeah,
I
that's around
think
Super Bowl Elite expiry is around that or
yeah,
right around there, yeah.
yeah, yeah. And it's like 2010. I was like king of the world. I had everything in order. I was doing good in health. I was playing the big end, playing high stakes poker. Like everything was happy. And then I had like a 4-year period where I was struggling very badly. And now it's just been I don't know. It's like a second wind. I don't know. Maybe I skipped the timeline or whatever. But
Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, it's like I mean, when I look back at my own history, it's, like, hard to get the exact timeline right, even though it happened to me, it's hard to keep track exactly what went first and what went second. But it sounds like you trusted people a lot, right? Like, you saved your money, in with a friend, like, you were willing to trust a friend with money to save it, right? And then instead of a bank, at least for a little while, and
Mhm.
then someone asks you for $1 million, and you're like, "Sure, man, I'll give you $1 million because we're boys." Or maybe it was a female, I have no idea, but you give a friend $1 million, and then you just and then it just sounds like people have had like a huge influence on you, and you had a lot of trust. Is that do you tie that to anything? Are you aware of anything? Because like most people can't give. I don't even think I could give someone $1 million unless their name was like mom or dad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So d- d- have, have you reflected on that? Is that something that you think about with yourself? Um,
Um, I think that it all started that money was never my goal either, so I still didn't really value it. But with
mhm,
the friend, I would do that again today. I've never regretted that. Even if you just look at all the shit that came after,
mhm,
um, giving the money to my friend, I was just thinking like, if what is making money worth if you can save somebody from have being financially destroyed the rest of your life,
mhm,
the rest of their lives.
yeah,
If I cannot use money that I've made to prevent that for one of my best friends,
sure,
then why am I making fucking money? Right? So if this is like if I can equalize his situation and I pretty much equalize myself instead of me being happy and him being destroyed for the rest of his life. That
right,
felt like the natural. You know what I mean? That felt good. That felt like it actually felt like I had a purpose other than competition to make money for or something, right?
sure,
Um but the vouching was a huge lesson. Like fucking, that was just like okay, nothing has ever gone wrong or something. You need to And I learned the hard way, and this wasn't like 40K or something, right? I mean,
No, it's a lot. That's a lot of money.
yeah, I got that. That to me was just like not doing. I take that very seriously, right? And
Yeah, sure.
so I was definitely too. I think I was more carefree. But it's also because like I just feel like when people invest emotionally in me and they do stuff for me, also when I'm down and I don't have a lot to offer or whatever, like out of pure friendship, I get like
Mhm.
fiercely loyal to people. Um, so yeah, I would definitely say that I bond with people in that type of way. And I think that personal relationships in the end is what most important to me. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, you
that's
you sound
why
like you have go ahead.
Well, that's why saving money by giving it to a friend was easier for me because a bank was just like, the fuck is my money doing there? But when I make an agreement with a friend, I don't want to put her in like a weird position, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like you have very deep personal relationships though. Like that go deeper than I think most people are. At least I can't say most people, but for me personally, deeper than my personal relationships go. I moved around a lot. So maybe that's a part of it. So I probably moved like 25 times before I was 18. So I never like stayed with the same group of people for that long. Was this friend someone that you grew up with that you knew your whole life? Was it someone like almost like a brother or a sister? I guess. I mean, like I said, I don't even know.
Yeah, yeah. No, that was sorry, I'm not crying because of the story, but
I appreciate that you're here, bro. Thank you so much.
yeah. Um no, no, that was yeah, it was a friend that I had grown up with that I knew pretty much my whole life. So yeah, that's definitely that helps, you know? I
Yeah,
mean, even
sure.
if you meet somebody through poker, you can get incredibly close, but it's always like the childhood friends that you stay close with that can do that you do that sort of thing for, I think.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, and then you value your word like pretty highly, right? I mean, like it sounds like because a lot of people, how much money is your reputation worth, right? Some people would say that there's no price, right? For me personally, that's the way that I would say. Like if someone says like, what would you, screw someone over for? Like there's no amount of money. And it's easier to say that once you've already had some money, right? But because I think it's difficult for people who have never had money to be like, there's no amount of money that I would screw you over for, or this guy's lying or whatever. But when you realize how that it's not as important as people think. Not having money sucks for sure, but having a lot of it is not as awesome as not having any is miserable. So right, I would say that. But to go from that to like giving someone 700K because you actually got to find out like how much your reputation is worth, right? Most people don't get to find out like how much is your reputation worth. We know that Lexus is worth at least $700,000 because it was on the line at one point, and you were just like, It sounds like it wasn't much of a decision.
yeah, well, the frustrating thing about it was that if you look at like the scene of people, the Dutch people that traveled or the Dutch people that played like cash games or private games or whatever, they were friends of the people that I vouched for. They were sort of like holding that over my head as just like, we can destroy you at any time if we go public with this. And
Mhm.
I always thought like, you should be really fucking happy that I'm the person that vouched because my intention is to pay you back. There are
Sure.
like I mean, I've been screwed by people that have vouched. There was a fucking guy in a private game just losing like 50K and he's like, "Oh, they want to be the man, right?" And it's like, "Oh, you can uh he can grab whatever he wants. Give him the money because I want to be the person that's facilitating." And
Sure.
it's like, "I'll vouch for him."
Sure.
Cool. Person loses 50K. I'm the big winner in the game. Hello. He's not picking up his phone. You vouched for him. And he's like, "Oh, yeah, but I didn't know that he was going to be like that."
Sure.
Okay, cool. And I've had this on like 5 occasions, and maybe like my dad was always very big on like if you shake your hand on something, it's kind of funny because I'm teaching Navi that now as well. Like when I
Mhm.
say like, let's do this, and I was like, give me a high five on it. And when he gives a high five, then I always like tell him like this is this is for the men now.
Yeah, sure.
So um so like but there was like, you heard rumblings or people would like flat out like post on forums about it, and I was just like, oh, you motherfuckers, like you have no idea, like obviously because all that stuff went wrong. It's not let me put it this way. If you have a tax thing pending where you have no idea what it's going to go, like you gave somebody $1 million,
Mhm.
like you can just whip up fucking 700K, right? This is not
Exactly.
something. And yes, I did not know everything was gonna go together. Yes, I have a lot of responsibility in each of these instances, 100%. But sometimes you get to a spot where it's like, bro, I know you're gonna get the money. I just need to, you know, sort it
Juggle.
out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was very frustrating to me because, and I experienced a lot of like anxiety about that, right? Because like also if that becomes sort of like a public scam, I didn't scam anybody. But if it becomes a public scandal of like, oh, Lex owes me this much, yeah, well, yes, I do, but like you already got 300 out of the 400K, you got 200 out of the 300K, and we're in contact. Like, what the fuck are we talking about? But
Yeah.
still, you experience this like this glooming thing over your head, and oh, it was so stressful. And then you have people like pressuring and people that thought it was funny, and just like these fucking waste of lives that would just like run with that. And it's just like it's just a stressful situation to be in. And then you're not even sort of like making money to do anything, right? Like to
Yeah.
to live or whatever. So it was a very stressful moment. And I've always sort of prided myself in the vouching and taking responsibility. And then, you know, it being twisted the other way around. But now I'm to the point because now everyone's like, if you think you owe me a fucking if you think I owe you a fucking dollar, right? Like reply in the comments because there won't be anybody there. There's not a single person in the world I owe a fucking dollar to.
Yeah.
Not a single person, right?
Yeah.
And that to me now, that like going through that, like I feel like financially, competitively, career wise, personally, the sort of like shit that I put myself through, the shit that I went through, also dealing with the stress of that, I feel like I've lived 2 lifetimes when it comes to experiencing that sort of thing, right?
Hmm.
So going through that at my age and getting out of that and building up to be successful after that to me, it feels like a superpower, right? I know that I can do anything. It feels
Yeah.
so I feel so strong about it. And now I look back at all of that and I'm super proud of it. It's like there's some very dark chapters there. There's some choices that I regret. But the funny thing is like if I look back on it, if I really think about the things that I regret, it's not doing stupid shit with money. It's not degenning high stakes. It's not appreciating how fun it actually was while I was doing it, or how special that position was. How
Hmm.
special it is to just grind 24 tables of 10-20 when you're in America, getting offline and playing a 25K WSOP event for fun.
Yeah.
Like
Sure.
how insane that is when you think about it. And now I know, right? Like now I know. Now I'm like, oh guys, because I'm more responsible and I think more and I make smart decisions. Now I'm like, oh well, the field looks relatively tough in the 5K Titans. We're gonna see if we satellite in. And I was just like, my past self would just fucking laugh at me, like call me like a nit, whatever.
Sure.
If you think about it. But now I appreciate actually what it is like to play the 5K Titans on Sunday. Right.
Sure.
And I appreciate the level of poker there. So if you ask me like, do you regret? I don't regret anything from that time. I had to learn the vouching the hard way. It's too bad it wasn't for 20K, but for that amount of money.
Hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. Sorry, it's a bit of a tangent, but
No, it's not a tangent at all, man. We're good. This is why we're here. So when I was, one of the things that stood out to me that is like kind of like deep in my bones is like a little bit of like paranoia. So we play an international game, right? Poker is not like we don't play a ring fenced game. Like you're not playing a game where you're competing against, the local. It's like the local game at the local casino, right? Online poker is the whole world, and streaming is also the whole world, right? And you mentioned that, that like this is like your second win, like your second life, like you get a do over or something. And so it sounds like you feel like there's like you have to make sure that you squeeze every drop, like you get everything that you can possibly get out of the opportunity that's in front of you. And I just wanted to linger on that a little bit, just because I also feel like that. Like the whole time, like, because one of the questions that I always get, I don't know why I get this question, but I personally get this question a lot, is like, how much longer does online poker have? And I feel like maybe I get that question because people think I'm sophisticated. They think I use tools a lot. So maybe because I use a lot of tools, I've seen how far the tools have come, right? But for ever since I started, I've always been worried about like losing my position, like other people getting better than me, the game passing me by, the technology outrunning me. And so does it sounds like you live with that paranoia as well, at least, but maybe in a different way. Um, and maybe not. So like I just like I said, I just wanted to linger on that a little bit. If you could talk a little bit more about that and like how you feel about the technology side of it too. Like do you ever worry about it? All of that.
Um, I think in poker, so there's like definitely it's a two-part thing, right? Poker and streaming.
Hmm.
Um, in poker, I don't really worry about that because if you look at the amount of people, I think one thing, the fencing off of like different liquidities, etc. I think that's concerning.
Yeah.
But I do think that's going to be like a trimming effect, and then it opens up a little bit more, right? It's like a vase. I think that there will sort of be a more maturity in terms of governments making decisions if they're going to be fenced off or join liquidities, that sort of thing. I think that there will be a time maybe where in like 7 years we look back and we're like, holy shit, we were very worried about it back then, but now it's in a good place, something like that.
Hmm.
Especially in North America. Um, but in terms of tools and the game getting harder and people talking about bots, I think it's very important you trust the site you play on, as
Hmm.
long as the sites are being held to standards. Like obviously, I only play stars. That's the only thing I can speak of. It's also the organization I know most about. I know how the game integrity team works. I know how many people work there. I know the
Hmm.
shit they do. I know how many ex players work there that
Hmm.
can detect like anomalies and stuff like that. So I trust stars in that sense, and that's not a I have a badge on kind of spiel, like, and whatever. I understand people might take it that way, but it's fine. I um I trust stars in that regard. And in terms of tools being available, the amount of work people have to do to benefit from those tools and to maximize it is such an insane amount of work that
Yep.
I'm also just like, yeah, it's like if you look at how many lazy regulars there are, or people get good and then they get lazy, or people degen, or there's all these things where you just still see, like, you and I, if we do 8 sessions, I can genuinely tell that I'm catching up to people online after 8 sessions, right? And
Hmm.
it's also a big part of that is because you know how to find my weaknesses. You have like, especially with the way you do coaching now, with the different areas that you, all these blobs of poker strategy that you just create systems for.
Hmm.
Um, but if you look at like how much you can still catch up to people. And then sometimes you play a hand versus somebody and you're just like, okay, this person clearly has never looked at this strategic situation and
Yep.
he's some end boss. And
Hmm.
everybody makes mistakes and stuff. But all that stuff, I never feel like suffocated in terms of like poker's dead. I mean, people were talking about poker's dead 3 years ago and Pone Diddy was up 100K on stars. And since people have been moaning about poker being dead, Pone Diddy has won more than 1 million on stars. So,
Yeah.
and obviously he's an insanely bright mind that can execute insanely well and is curious.
Hmm.
But so you might not make it to the million that he has, but you can definitely get it to 200K.
Sure.
Anybody with a good system can make $100,000 a year,
Sure.
on in poker. I
Hmm.
genuinely believe that. But obviously, you need to have the time. It needs to be a bit fortunate. But like generally, all the information is there, all the tools, the whole game plan. But a lot of people do not want to do the work. They might not be in a situation to spend like 8 extra hours a week to study. I understand all that, but I think that we're just in a period of time where in 5 years we're going to think, oh, remember 5 years ago we're moaning about poker being dead or there was no future. Oh, it was a lot easier, but we can still make money.
Yep.
So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, people have said it's dead since I started. Like ever since I started, every year there was some guy or some group of people saying the opportunity's gone, the games are dead. There's like the monster under the bed, the AI, the software, the
Yeah,
this, that. There's some real time solvers, whatever. Ever since I started, there have been somebody saying like it's over, and I'm just like,
yeah,
okay, like we'll just keep going until it ends then, because like the predictions of doomsday just haven't really materialized. So I'm kind of
Uh,
with you in that regard, but I am paranoid as shit about like losing my edge and like and making sure that I
yes,
stay good and studying and staying on top of it and making sure that like I have this opportunity and that I don't let it slip. Um, you know, like we're both fans of like MMA, and in MMA it's more obvious, right? Like the guy, it's an international sport, right? Like fighting, right, at the top, and it's more obvious that if you're the champion, like whatever, if you're a middleweight champion, welterweight champion, heavyweight champion, doesn't matter, of a division, like everybody is coming for you specifically, and you are going to lose. Like you're not going to be able to maintain that spot for forever, right? And so I'm like keenly aware in my own kind of psyche about the fact that like the whole world plays this game, the whole world competes at it, and somewhere there's some kid that's like way smarter than me that's like just getting started. He's been studying for like 2 years or 3 years, and he wants everything that I have, everything that I've
Yeah.
built, like all of like being out front in terms of strategy and stuff. There's some dude who like 2 years from now he's gonna take it, and so like that's like very like wake up, Jordan. Why does Jordan work hard? Like why are you up at 5 o'clock in the morning to like coach some guy and like start working? Why are you still working 7 days a week? I'm like, because there's some kid in Romania, bro, and I don't know what his name is, and he's coming to kick my ass, right? So yeah, so that's a big part of it for me. Which brings me into, because we both train at least a little bit of like combat sports, right? So you did, is it Dutch kickboxing or did you do Muay Thai? I would assume it's like what did you train specifically?
Kickboxing, yeah,
Yeah,
Dutch style
kickboxing.
kickboxing. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you always do that? Did you do that as a kid growing up, or did you like when did you get into it?
I did some boxing, but it was just casually, like once, twice a week, and it had some sparring and stuff. But it was also sort of like self defense. I got like, I got punched in the face a few times, and I wanted to get more fit. And then like some guy headbutted me in a bar, and I was just like, I just need to learn how to throw a punch, So
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to do some boxing. Like when we went out in our area, there was like always some scuffle going on or something.
Mm-hmm.
So that was nice. I think I think having any martial arts skill is an insane benefit for anybody, right?
Yeah, me
I
too.
think
I think so.
yeah, I think you would agree to that as well.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, but then I had the bet with Elkie, which coincided with me wanting to get more fit and stuff, and then
Mm-hmm.
I was pretty fit, and I wanted to do something like that. So yeah, so then I did kickboxing, but it's weird. It's again, it's like this period in my life where I fully went for it. I barely played poker during training. Right, I trained
Mm-hmm.
6 times a week. Last 3 months, I trained 12 times a week. Didn't play any poker. I just lived like a martial artist pretty much. I was lived like I was gonna go to the UFC pretty much. That's how I spent my days.
Yep.
I had people weighing my food, people prepping my food. It's crazy. So, yeah, I mean, it's something that I miss though. I really miss martial arts. I don't do anything right now.
Okay, so you don't train. You're not training at all anymore.
No.
When was the last time you were doing some at least a little bit of training? When was the last time?
I started doing sort of like bag work, pad work,
Mhm.
in my fitness sessions with my trainer.
Okay.
But that's it. I've always thought
Okay.
about it, but it's so hard now, especially now with kids.
Yeah.
It's just like to add another thing to the agenda, you need to be there, and then you need to bring that intensity. Because I can't
Mhm.
just go to kickboxing and just be like, "Yo," every Monday, sort of like half suck,
Sure.
come up with sparring, and then just leave again. And then some Mondays I can't because I'm too tired from Sunday sessions, or like I just can't do it like that.
Yeah. 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 You're an all in or nothing guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
my
That's
all
fair.
in at this moment just isn't martial arts, right? So
Yeah. It's like all of the things that you are passionate about that don't matter as much as your family. It's hard to keep those things going sometimes. Once
mhm.
when you have kids and the family part starts, like you
Yeah,
have the responsibility to work, make money, stay out front, make sure that you're competitive, and then you have to be dad, right? Like you have to be the
yeah,
husband too, and like that
yeah,
requires like if you don't want to suck at that, like it requires a lot of your energy, which makes pretty much everything else harder.
yeah. It's also it's you get a different kind of tired or something, right? It's just not like, oh yeah, okay, I'll do sports. Okay, cool. Well then I go see a friend. Because also if I say, hey, Tuesday night's kickboxing practice, then that means that Mirtha her Tuesday night is being home, right?
Correct. Yeah.
It's not like
Exactly.
back in the day when it's just like I do this, you do that, the next day we'll be together, and then so it's like
Yeah.
it's different, and it's just yeah, it's a bit hard, and then streaming also it just takes a lot. It's a lot of time goes into it, right? So um
Yeah. No time.
but
No time.
it's kind of funny, like also touching back on what you said, like wanting to be the best. I had that in streaming as well, where that's the paranoia that I've had, where I was always like, I have to grind, I cannot let people catch up or whatever, right? And in
Hmm.
streaming, I have that as well. Like I want to be the biggest, I want to smash, and if I miss this day, that's why those internet troubles that I had last few weeks is just tilting me so much because they promise people consistency. You see Spraggy online, Giraffe is streaming. I'm like, oh
Yeah.
my fucking god.
I
I'm
think you're
looking at like a
cursed with
speed test,
internet issues, man. You've had internet issues as long as I've known you.
Yeah,
Doesn't matter where you are in the world.
yeah, that's true. Oh man, Panama era.
I was
Oof.
gonna say
Yeah,
Panama, yeah.
yeah.
Oh man.
But yeah, so it's like, uh, it's so hard. I mean, you do. I mean, do you do a shitload of jujitsu, or how's that going now?
Yeah, so I'm trading a little bit less just now. So I'm in the process of selling one house, buying another house, and like the thing that has to break in my life first always has to be jujitsu because it can't be anything on the family side, right? And it can't be anything on the business side. So if I have something else going on, like something has to come out for me, right? Like where if I didn't have kids, then it would be easy. I would just like, I could sell a house and buy a house and just do jujitsu with them still. It would be fine. But like,
Yeah.
if something, as soon as like life responsibilities like ramp up even just a little bit, the first thing that has to go is like jujitsu. And I train Muay Thai too. I wrestle a bit too. But yeah, but as soon as there's like we got to do this thing. Like it's, so it was the same thing when I got audited last year. So the government loves poker players. Apparently, they're always trying to come after us, make sure that we're paying what we owe. But yeah, so when I got audited last year was the same thing. Like the first thing to come out of my life, like obviously being dad can't come out. Like if I'm tired, my kid comes home from school, she wants to play. Like we're gonna go out and we're gonna play. If she wants, when it comes to picking up for school, dropping her off, I got to do those things. But yeah, so if everything's fine and I'm like not working way too much, I can train. But the second that things start to ramp, like the training stops. So
Yeah.
I'm in a similar sort of spot.
I always feel like if you look at like a big square and that square is everything that you spend your time on, there's certain blocks that are always there.
Yep.
And like you said, it's like, you know, being a husband, being a dad, being a friend, even though that one shrinks and goes up and down, right? See
Hmm.
friends, um, and then spend time on health. And then, I wanted to pick up tennis again, and I started playing tennis. I got a coach every single week again. I was loving it. And then Yuna was born, and now we have two kids, and there's no more tennis.
Yeah,
Because it's
exactly.
just like, yeah, it's just like where are you gonna add those things? But it's also kind of cool, to live in that sort of like. I really feel like poker teaches you that to get to know that, right? To be able to very quickly move and step away from things. I think that's somebody that is not used to that. Okay, so people that have poker as a profession or something similar, where you have to learn with bad outcomes, where you have to learn to balance because you're doing something intense, and you have to offset things, right? Even within the game, right? You have to do it within the game. You have to
Hmm.
offset certain things. Like I really feel like l- thinking about balance and dealing with setbacks, and especially dealing with setbacks, is one of the biggest things that poker has taught me. Um, and then you know it's so easy then, okay, GG Jiu-Jitsu. And it's like it's a natural choice, you don't think about it, right? And
Yeah.
sometimes when I speak to friends that are the same age as me, and it's like, "Yeah, but I can't give up fucking padel, man. Come on, like it's my thing." But it's like, "Yeah, but it's not you cannot do it right now." "Yeah, but I've
Yeah.
been doing it for 4 years and I fucking love it." Yes, but you can't, It makes I always feel like poker players are very good at sort of like shifting that. The same when somebody starts a business, right? And they say like, "Okay, I'm gonna loan this much, I can do this, blah blah," and they have this whole plan. And then I'm like, "Okay, so what happens when the company fails? Like, what does your financial situation look like?"
Mhm.
And they'll say, and this happens every single time, "It won't fail. I believe
Yeah,
this is gonna
sure.
happen." I was like, "Yes, but it's not 100% guarantee. So what is
Yeah.
the situation?" He's like, "I cannot talk about that. I need to keep thinking about." And I always feel like, yeah,
I'm with you.
yeah,
Yeah, everyone else is like always doing this like positive thinking thing, and I'm just like, especially when you play. I think when you've got any exposure to tournament poker whatsoever,
yeah,
it's like I wake up and if I'm going to play a session, I expect to lose. It's like my wife's like, "What do you think's going to happen?" And sometimes she'll ask. I don't know why she still asks, but sometimes she's like, "How you feeling today? What do you think's going to happen?" I'm like, "I think I'm probably going to lose most of the money." She's like, "How can you say that before you play? You have to be." I'm like, "Because that's what's probably going to happen. I'm still going to do my best." And I might still win a lot of money. But being like an idiot about the fact that I'm probably going to lose and pretending like that's not what's going to happen, I feel like I'm just going to be disappointed later if I don't acknowledge that like the most likely outcome is I just lose a bunch of money, and that's okay
yeah,
because when I win, I'll win way more than the days that I lose. But
yeah.
like, yeah, I don't know. I'm with you, man. People start stuff like failure is not an option. I'm like, it definitely is a possibility.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
definitely a possibility.
It will happen.
Yeah.
And it's also with like shifting from, and maybe that's also like all the stuff with the swings that I went through or whatever. I don't know, but it's like, "Oh, our plane is canceled." Okay. What's our best option?
Yeah,
What
exactly.
do we do now?
Yeah.
Okay, is there another flight going? Where I was with a friend, it's like a plane is canceled. we might be stuck here. And he was like, oh no, what? But we had a ticket. Like, what the fuck do we do now? Like, but our hotels. And it's like, yeah, okay, but let's just look at what the best option is. And he just starts ranting and ranting. It's like, I can't believe this is happening. Okay, but it happened. So now that we know this, let's look at the new
Yeah, sure.
situation and just try to fucking figure it out.
Yeah, I had one of those really recently. Actually, my wife, she was walking home, and it started to rain, so she jumped on the bus, and she took the bus like 2 blocks. She just like 2 or 3 blocks just to get out of the rain to come home. And she messaged me, and she was like, "Oh my god, my purse is on the bus." And so she like ran home, and I didn't even look at my phone. And I looked at my phone as she knocked on the door. I looked at my phone, and I'm like, "Hey, what's up? Did you get your bag?" She's like, "No." I'm like, "Okay." And I just like walked to the car. She's like, "What are we gonna do? Like, do I need to call?" I'm like, "Just pull up Google Maps, find the bus." And like, I just started like, found the bus. She like runs up to the bus, and she's like, "You didn't freak out or get?" I'm like, "What am I gonna freak out for? Your boat. We know where it is. It's on a bus. We find the bus route. We drive I'm gonna drive faster than a bus that has to stop. So we catch the bus. You get the bag." And she's like super relieved, and she's like, "Oh, I'm so happy that she didn't get mad." I'm like, "I'm not gonna get mad about that. I don't
Yeah,
care
yeah.
about that." But like, she grew up in a way where like if something really stressful like that happened, there was like an eruption. And so when something like that happens, she's freaking out. And I'm like, "Yeah, we're good. We're just gonna
Yeah.
find the bus, get your bag. Hopefully no one stole it. And if someone did steal it, we'll cancel your credit cards. We'll get you a new bag. Don't worry
Yeah,
about it."
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
So, but yeah, but anyways, this was an awesome conversation, man. And I think that us, especially you, being able to take things and not do things that you really like doing. I think that's like the definition of a full life is when you've got so many things that you want to do and it's full, right? And so I'm really happy for you. It sounds like you're in a really good spot, and it's an honor to be your friend and to work with you. And so thank you very much for being here, brother. Appreciate you.
Same to you, bro. Like I hope you guys have me on another time because I feel like we could probably talk for like 4 more hours.
Yeah, man, this was awesome. I don't want to stop, but I've got to go do one of those other things where I got to go run and take my kid to school. So,
Yeah. All right, bro.
all right, cheers, man. Talk soon. Bye.
Bye.